Recording, sir.
Recording, yeah.
Yeah.
I have started the
Yeah.
recording. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. So, I think this is a lecture on social capital, and and definitely we are going to discuss on that. But before that, what we are trying to do here is I'm going to give some kind of introduction of myself, and then I'll ask here only why Ayan is here, so I'll ask Ayan that if he can give some kind of introduction of himself as well. So the entire session I'll like to be more conversational. It is maybe interactive, right? Ayan, is it fine?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay. So I'm Dr. Debajit Jha, and I teach economics, and I have done my PhD in economics from Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi. And before that, I did my master's from Banaras Hindu University, and before that, I did my undergrad. So, okay, I'm not switching on my webcam because I think the internet may be a little bit of slower. Is it fine, Ayan?
Yes, sir, it won't be a problem.
Yeah. Okay. So, Ayan, can you tell me something about yourself?
Yes, sir. Sir, I studied humanities, sociology, psychology, political science, economics in my 12, like 11, 10, 12. I'm a social activist right now. Like I'm an environmental activist right now. So I do a
Okay,
lot of
that's great.
groundwork, planting trees and spreading awareness on social issues.
Okay, and which place you are from?
So Allahabad.
Ah,
So Allahabad.
okay, you are from Allahabad. Oh, that's great. Okay, so on what actually we are going to discuss today is about social capital. Have you heard about it earlier?
Uh, Unfortunately not, sir.
So the kind of thing you do, you told that this is a part of social capital as well, right? And what it is, I'm going to discuss it more when I think after when we'll go more on the discussion, right? I think it is better if I can see you. I think it is much more easier for me even to make a conversation, right? So it's fine. Yeah, if your webcam and even Ashok's webcam is on. So okay, and Ashok, can you tell me about something about you that if you can introduce yourself a little bit?
Uh, I, I'm from Andhra Pradesh, a town near Vijayawada, called
Okay,
Eluru, and
okay,
I'm I have studied economics, history, accountancy, and commerce in my 11th and 12th.
okay. Anything else?
Uh,
Any information you want to share? Any kind of information that you like to share?
I like movies.
Hmm? You like?
Movies.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So yeah, movie is also a part of our discussion today. So
Okay.
great. So Oyon is doing some kind of social work, and he's an environmental activist, and this is a part of our study today, and what we are going to discuss. And you watch movie, that is also a part of the discussion today, right? So this is a great thing to have two guys that their interest match someone with what I'm going to talk today, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and before that, I can tell you something else that okay, in your actual when from the September 1 the courses will start. I'm going to teach economics. There is a course called structure of the economy. So I'm going to teach that along with another faculty, Dr. Geeta Sinha. She's from Brookings, Oxford. So so we are together. We are going to teach that course. And here, so basically, I already told Oyon that I'm an economist and I work in the field of say institution growth and this kind of how social capital can influence growth or culture, trust, all these kind of issues that I generally research on. So basically a little bit of glimpse of that, what I do or what is the meaning of those kind of things, and what are the application or kind of say the applicability of those concepts in the present world that we are going to discuss today, right? Okay, so the first thing what I am trying to discuss in case of the social capital. So first, I think we should try to understand it vaguely by taking some kind of examples, and then we'll be able to say we'll be able to concretize more after some time. I think taking some formal definition, what kind of things these are, what kind of things we are going to deal with, and how to restore social capital. All these kind of things we will discuss in this lecture. But before that, I think it is better to take some kind of vague notion of taking some example. Okay, so in case of Oyon, that what Oyon does, that he is a part of a group of environmental activists, right? Am I true?
Yes, sir. Actually, I was an individual activist only. I recently became a part. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So any kind of activism, when we do this kind of activism, what we do, we basically say interact with people, right? So if we want to make our voices heard to the government, to the general people, what we do, we form a group, right? In a very vague sense, these groups are basically the capital of our society, right? Say, for example, say any kind of civil movement. Have you seen, say, after Nirbhaya thing happened in in Delhi? Can you recall that that brutal rape case in Delhi a few years back? So what happened?
Yes, sir.
So a large group of people gathered and they protested, right? And they forced the government to take some kind of action. So these kind of social groups are definitely a kind of social capital. They are capital to our nation, because say when we do something, say to prevail the rule of law. So this is a part of the capital that we have. This is a kind of a positive thing we have in our society, that if the government is not taking action against someone, we can pressurize, right? Is it so? So this is a kind of capital that upholds the rule of law and say the kind of norms that society holds, all these kind of things. So democracy itself is a kind of institution that again provides us some kind of social capital platform, right? We participate in democracy. So all these kind of things are social capital, like any religious organization. So what they do, a large number of people gather together, they share their own opinions, the values, the kind of religious beliefs they share with each other, and by that they form a kind of institution. So these kind of institutions are also social capital, right? So it has been observed in many studies that the people who go to church or to mandir or to masjid regularly, or means people who are more religious, right? So they involve less in terms of crime, right? So often these kind of groups give us some kind of benefit in the society, and the benefit may be in terms of lower crime. If people are more religious, they fear some kind of, or maybe they detach, they hold some kind of values that deter themselves from involving in some kind of, say, the crime, right? So all these things are kind of social capitals, but social capital can be negative as well. So till now, whatever the kind of social capital I was talking about, these are mainly, say uh, positive social capital, the capital that gives up some kind of positive, say, outcome in the society, right? Is it so?
Yes, sir.
But there can be some kind of negative social capital as well. Say in recent time, what you have, say, in case of Sushant Singh murder case, what have you heard about that? Can you tell me something about Sushant Singh murder case? That recently this Sushant Singh Rajput murder case, and this is a very common news everywhere. Do you know something about that, Ashok?
Uh,
Ayan, yeah, you can tell.
Yes, sir. So it was like people started with saying that it was like he died of depression and all of that, and people later on started the issue of nepotism came in, and
Hmm.
the people have boycotted the movie Sadak 2 because they think that Mahesh Bhatt and Alia Bhatt are a big problem of nepotism, and Karan Johar is
Hmm.
also a very big problem. So
Yeah.
that might affect their mental health, and if they take some action against themselves, so like that could be a negative effect of that. And maybe there's and right now it's been declared that it's a murder case, like CBI is investigating it.
Yes. So
Yes.
you told about this nepotism, right? So basically they also say in the movie circle, in the Bollywood, people have formed a kind of a group that they share the films, they share the jobs, they share the offers within themselves only. They made a cartel, right? So that is what people are talking about nepotism, because they are giving chance only to the persons who are somehow involved to them, right? And we know that the negative consequences that had happened, if it is true that the nepotism is the reason for that Sushant Singh murder or suicide case, whatever it may be. So this is a negative consequence of a kind of a group that has been formed by other Bollywood actors or maybe some film directors, like whatever the name you told already, right? So this is a negative outcome as well. So similarly, we can think about, say, a drugs dealer group. So there is a very strong faith among themselves. The drug dealers, among each other, they have a very strong bonding, right? So the kind of bonding that we were talking about in case of religious groups, the similar kind of bonding you will find when you are discussing about the drug dealers, right? But we know that the drug dealers merger or the groups are a kind of negative, can create a negative consequence for the entire society. Is it right? So often this social capital can have some negative consequences as well. But in most of the cases, we have seen that the social capital has a very positive kind of a impact in the overall in terms of outcome in the society, right? And what kind of impact it can create. So to discuss that, I think we need to take some more examples and more easy ideas that happen or phenomena that happen within and around them, around us, right? Say, for example, say some kind of say if you so okay, I'm coming to this a little later, but before that, let me tell you that what connects these different groups, or how these groups have been formed. We were talking about some kind of groups; those are having some kind of, say, the impact on the society. But what is the basis of these groups formation? If you try to think about that, how these groups are formed, then the one very important aspect of all these groups is the trust among themselves. So the persons who are involved in these groups, there is a strong tie that each and everyone trust others, right? Say, for example, if Oyon is an environmental activist and he is involved in a group of environmental activists, so they share some common values. So this common value is creating some kind of a trust in the society, right? Or within that group. And then the entire group can work for a common cause of protecting the environment, right? So trust is one of the most important element or ingredient of social capital, right? So now we are moving to more formalized ways of looking at it. So initially I have introduced the term social capital, then I have taken some examples, and then I'm moving to the ingredients of it, how social capital is being formed in the society, right? So before going to that it is I think better to take some kind of a definition of what social capital means. So there is a large number of definition, and this is the major problem of anyone who is working with the concept of social capital, because still there is, though this concept of social capital in social sciences prevails for a very long period of time, but still we don't have a concrete definition of the term, and this gives us some kind of vagueness of what it means, or to understand what does what one person is meaning when they are referring to social capital, right? But still some kind of definitions can give us or lead us to understand the concept of social capital in much further way, right? So first kind of definition of social capital is, it is a kind of a norm of trust and reciprocity. There are some social scientists like Sander, Putnam, and Coleman. They have introduced this kind of idea. So one definition given by Sander, it is saying the social capital is anything that facilitates individual or collective action generated by networks of relations, reciprocity, trust, and social norms, right? Is it clear? So it is saying it is a kind of a network that that is formed by a kind of, say, the reciprocity, trust, or social norm, right? Similarly, another definition tells that social capital refers to connections among individuals or social networks and the norms of reciprocity and trustworthiness that arise from them, right? Is it clear? So these are the kind of idea that is being there. So one thing that we find in both these definition is the trustworthiness or trust among the people, and the reciprocity. So what this reciprocity and trust means, that we are going to discuss even further, and we'll be able to understand, and we will constantly relate it to the real world situations, and we'll be able to understand more on that. Similarly, another social scientist who is also, he's a politician, the name of the person is Fukuyama, and he has said that social capital is what produces a civil society. Means the civic behavior, the civic sense of people, this is the basis of civil society. So what does all these things mean? We are going to discuss them one by one. But before that, we need to, I think we have already understood that to understand the concept of social capital, we need to understand the how trust is formed in the society, right? Okay, but before that, I want to give you some kind of example that why studying social capital is important, or understanding social capital is important, right? Is it how you are finding this, how I'm going by, you're finding this okay, or should I have to change something the way we are discussing? Can you please give me a little a quick feedback? Is it fine? Are you being able to understand what I'm telling? Or is it becoming
Yes, sir.
difficult? Oyon, is it becoming difficult, or is it okay?
It's completely all right, sir.
It's
We
completely
are
all
able to.
right. Okay, fine. So very good. So say, for example, why social capital is important to understand. If we say, if we are eating something, then we get some kind of benefit out of that, so we eat that commodity, right? So when we are understanding something, definitely we need to understand why it is important to understand that, right? Say it has been already found in many studies that say social capital or trust as such is one of the most important ingredient of a society's growth. Say, if we are talking about economic growth, then we found that especially the growth economists found a very interesting phenomena that say a country's growth may depend on, say, how much capital or how much machines or machineries the country is having. At the same time, how much labor, because people are going to work and produce something, and that will increase the per capita income of people, right? So labor is important. Then technology, the kind of technology, whether we have been able to use advanced technology or not. So that is an important ingredient to understand that whether the country will grow slowly or rapidly, right? And we know that growth is how much important growth is in a country. So when we have compared the countries, the two countries or maybe more than two countries with similar kind of technology, the similar kind of capital stock or machineries or similar kind of labor force, then also we found that some countries are making use of the labor, the technology, the machineries more efficiently compared to some other countries, right? So then the question comes that what is the difference between these two countries that is giving us a very different kind of outcomes in terms of GDP, right? And the social scientists observe that this is the social, the cultural thing, the social factors, the cultural factors. Maybe in a particular kind of a culture, people are hardworking, right? In another culture, people are less hardworking. So in a country where the culture is giving incentive to the people to work hard, so in that kind of a culture, GDP will grow more rapidly compared to another kind of a culture, right? Again, say, for example, when we are say I have been employed in a university, say next month, and what is the agreement, that there is an agreement that after 1 month they will give me a paycheck. But why I believe so? The question is, say before joining they are going to give me the salary after 1 month, but why I am going to believe that? There should be something that is giving me a kind of idea, okay, after 1 month definitely the university is going to give me the paycheck, right? But what is that basis? So this is what the social capital is. In a situation where people don't trust one another, right? So people will not believe that, okay, I'll get the paycheck after 1 month. But in a kind of a situation where people have a belief or trust on the other person, so in that kind of a situation, people will believe that after 1 month they are going to give me the paycheck, right? Is it true, Ashok? Ashok, is it true? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So say any kind of transaction. So say for example, when you are purchasing some kind of say commodity from Amazon in the online mode, so often you are making the payment in advance before you are getting the commodity, right? So you are purchasing a laptop from Amazon and you have already paid before getting the commodity. Why you are paying? Ashok, can you tell me why you are paying? Please unmute here.
Like, it was like an agreement between me and the company. Like, it's a trust that I have on them.
Exactly. Similarly, say often companies send us the commodities in the COD mode, right? Cash on delivery mode. So they are sending the commodity without getting any kind of assurance from my side that I'm going to pay, right? But they are believing me. So this is called trust. So if you look at very closely that what is happening in all these kind of transactions, so without trust, these transactions can't happen. So if I'm say joining a job, before that I'm getting a kind of I have a trust that okay, the company is going to give me the paycheck after the 1 month. Similarly, in the transaction with the Amazon, what I am making, I have a trust that definitely Amazon is going to send me the commodity if I pay. So even without thinking much, I'm paying them in advance, right? So this kind of transactions are making possible, or maybe the trust is making possible this kind of transaction. So all the transaction that is happening in an economy is somehow related to a kind of, or based on a kind of a strong trust among the parties, those who are involved in the transaction, right? So without the trust, if the trust component I can take it out from those transactions, then those transactions will not happen at all. And we know that the growth or the economic activity of an economy is entirely depending on how much transaction it is happening. So if the companies are producing something, they are selling it to the customers, and in advance they are making the commodities in anticipation that people are going to purchase those commodities. So this is also a kind of a trust, right? Again, we are having a strong belief that the persons we are selecting in the parliament, they are going to work for us. They are not going to destroy the economy, right? If they are doing, even from their side as well, if they don't deliver what they are intended to deliver, then in the next election, in a well-functioning democracy, we have, or the people have a choice of changing that particular government, right? Again, there is a strong trust component between the voters and the governments there. So the entire economic system, the entire political system is operating under a particular condition that people trust each other, right? But what we have been told about in our home, in our schools, don't trust others, or at least don't blindly trust others, right? Is it right? So the kind of thing that I'm going to tell you, this is giving us an entirely opposite idea that what we have learned. But this is the biological construct of a human being, that people are generally trustworthy. The development psychologists, they have already proved that people are generally trustworthy, and they reciprocate the other's behavior. If someone is helping me today, I'm going to reciprocate that behavior when that person needs help. If someone is, say, betraying me today, I'm going to betray that person whenever the chance I'll get, right? So this kind of trustworthiness and reciprocity of the behavior is inherent to us. And this is one of the most important part to understand that how a society is forming trust among themselves. So what I have told till now, that trust is one of the major component of economic progress or economic development in a society. So if we need to understand that how a society will progress, or how we will be able to progress, then it is entirely depending on that how much trust that society is holding, or maybe alternatively how much social capital that society is having. Is it fine? Ayon, Tej, is it fine?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Okay, I can't see both of you. Okay, fine. Tej is there?
Yes, sir.
Is a new. Tej, can I see you? Can you just simply switch on your camera? It is
So can you see
easier
me?
for me. I think I'll be able to know. Not now. Okay, yeah, I can see you.
Now, okay.
Tej, can you give me a short introduction of yours? Actually, you joined a little late.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I'm Tej. I'm from Delhi, Saket, and I've done 8 years in boarding in Bishop Wharton School, Shimla.
Okay.
And
Great.
2 years I was here in the
Okay, fine. Fine, Tej. Okay, so till now, are you finding it easy to understand what I am talking about?
Yes, sir. These are general issues.
General issues, right? Fine. So, to understand the trust in a society, say there will be two conditions that is important. Say, and if we try to ask the question that under what circumstances would the two parties, or more than two parties, who have reached an agreement trust one on another to keep their word? Say, behind any kind of transaction that I am saying, that there is an agreement that if, say, I'm going to purchase something from the grocery shop, then the grocery shop owner is sure that after getting the commodity, I'm going to pay him the money. Similarly, I'm also being some kind of assurance, though it is not written anywhere that if I get the commodity, I have to pay the money, but still there is a kind of a norm that, okay, that if that person is giving me the commodity, I'm going to give him the kind of the money in return, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So, but what are the circumstances or what are the conditions that particularly or ensures these transactions are happening or people will keep their word? Say, for example, if I have to believe that someone what is they telling, or say what I'm telling to you is true, or if you want to trust me, that somehow my word have to be credible, right? If
Yes,
there
sir.
is no credibility, then you are not going to believe me.
Yes, sir.
So what ensures that credibility? That is what we want to understand the trust. So
Yes.
if the parties, there are two parties, and if the parties are to trust one another to keep their promise, parties means not political parties I'm talking about, any person, any
Yes,
two
sir.
groups, right? The two conditions are there, and the two conditions are, the first condition, it is saying at every stage of the agreed course of actions, it would be in the interest of each party to plan to keep his or her word if all others were to plan to keep their word. So if I know somehow that the other person is going to keep their word, then it will be in my interest then that I'll also keep the word, right? Say, for example, say in case of the transactions that about the transaction with Amazon, right?
Yes, sir.
Say, for example, if I say I ordered something from or maybe say I ordered something from Amazon and I have paid them the money and they haven't sent the commodity to me. So what will happen? There are two possibilities. One is definitely I'm not going to purchase from Amazon next time, right? And
Yes.
the second option is I can go to the police station or I can go to the court. That okay, I have paid them for this commodity, they haven't sent, right? So these options are there. But if both the parties say I'm also what I have been promised that I'll pay the money and what they have promised that they will send me the commodity, if both persons are keeping their promises, then what is happening that in this case that both of us are in some kind of profitable situation because the business will take place, right? I need the commodity, so I'll be able to use the commodity, and they need the money, they need to sell the commodity, so they will be able to sell the commodity.
Yes.
So the first condition is that if we know that the others are going to keep their word, then it will be profitable for me to keep my word. If that kind of profit is involved in the transaction or involved in this process, or some kind of gain is involved, or maybe some kind of incentive is involved in the process of this transaction or this agreement between these two parties, then there will be a general tendency of both the parties to keep the word, right? But this, yes. Are you asking something?
No,
Tej, I can't hear you.
sorry, sir. My net is a bit bad. I'm not asking, sir.
I think it is better you can switch off your video, then you will be able to speak, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Now ask the question.
No, sir, I wasn't asking, sir.
Okay, you are not asking anything. Okay, fine. So, okay. This is the first condition. But the first condition on its own can't sustain. Say, for example, say if the first party, say the Amazon is not keeping his or its word, then it will be profitable for me to not keep my word as well. So if I know that Amazon is not going to send me the commodity, then it is better for me not to pay Amazon in advance, right? Is it true? So it will be profitable for me if I don't pay, right? So the kind of situation I was telling, one is a good outcome or better outcome when both the parties are keeping their word. But I'm saying that with the same condition, the second situation can also happen, and this is also a kind of a mutual equilibrium situation for both the parties if they don't keep the word, right? So while I was telling with the first condition that the better outcome is possible, so the worst outcome is also possible, right? Is it clear? So to ensure that whatever the first condition is credible to us, we need some other kind of condition. So we need a second condition that will ensure that the first condition will be automatically met. So the second condition says at every stage of the agreed course of actions, each party would believe that all others would keep their word. So trust itself is not enough, right? So we have to make others believe that whatever, so I'm a trustworthy person, right? If others are say I'm a trustworthy person, I know it very well, right? So if someone is not betraying me, I'm not going to betray them. If someone is going to say have some good behavior with me, I'm also going to return or reciprocate some good behavior. But at the same time, the other person who is involved in this transaction, they have to involve in the process. Otherwise, it will not be possible for the beneficial outcome to come out. So to ensure that the content of belief must be there. So the second condition is saying at every stage of the agreed course of actions, each party would believe that all others would keep their word. So if these two conditions are made, a system of beliefs that the agreement will be kept would be self-confirming. So it will automatically be confirmed if these two conditions are met, right? Is it clear? Is it clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think we are running short of time, so I'm not going to discuss any more, but I informally I can tell you something. That okay. So we have seen that a kind of say all kind of market transactions are somehow based on the
So we can't hear you, sir.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, there was a internet problem. Okay. So what I was telling that if you try to understand that how societies have been formed, how this modern market has come, so in case of everything we will find that the most important component of all these transactions, those are happening, and this is say for example I'm keeping my money in the bank, I don't know even in person the people in the who is say who is investing my mutual fund from my bank account, right? When I'm saving, I'm say dealing with a customer care person, I'm believing the person, so I don't know who is the person is. So all these kind of transactions, so when I'm purchasing something, I don't know who the person is sending me the commodity from the Amazon, right? But all this kind of complicated transactions without knowing the person is happening only because of that there is a trust between me and the parties involved there. So in case of a society, if a society is to well function, if the markets are, if markets have to well function, if the markets have to be in place, so in all these kind of things, what is needed is the component of trust. And since all the transactions in the economy are based on these components, so the general prosperity of a country is entirely depending on how much trust the country is having. So based on the kind of trust or the social capital a kind of a country is having, so that is somehow determining that which country is rich today and which countries are poor. So in case of poor countries, we will see in most of the times, not everywhere definitely, but in most of the times in the poor countries, some other components may also be missing. But if the two countries are same with all other factors except trust, then we will find that in one country which is having more trust, more social capital, those countries are progressing more compared to another country which is having less trust and less social capital, right? I'm going to finish my talk today here. If you want to ask me something, I can try to answer. I think we are running short of time, but still we can. I think Lalit, can we take more minutes here?
Yeah, sure, sir.
If the question, okay, Ayon, Ashok, and Tej, if you have any question, you can ask me, or if you want to discuss something else.
Yes, sir. I have a question, sir.
Yeah, Ashok. Yeah, tell me. Is it Ashok or Ayan?
So Ayan.
Ayan, yeah, Ayan, please.
So in the beginning, so you said that religion acts as a social capital and it keeps everything at peace. So like this, like there are less chances of violence and all of that. But now, like in the current situation, as we are seeing, like the Bangalore case, and like there have been so many cases of religious conflicts. So currently, like this thing is actually happening the opposite way. So any
Exactly.
comments on that, sir?
Exactly, definitely. Okay, fine. Any other question? Any other question from anyone? Ashok, Tej?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So Ayon, it is a very interesting question. Definitely, definitely it is going to give me some more space to discuss it more further. Okay, fine. So the question is, say, for example, I was giving an example that the religious groups or form a kind of social capital, and that gives us some kind of benefit in terms of lower crime or lower say breaches of trust, all these kind of things, right? But at the same time, Ayan is giving some kind of example that is a really important situation in present day's world, that if you look at different countries or different different countries in the world or within our country as well, we'll see that there is a huge religious polarization that is happening, and that is sometimes that is often actually lowering or producing some very brutal or bad outcomes that we don't want, right? So how can I explain that, right? In case of social capital, definitely these are social capital, but I have already told you another example that often social capital can have some negative impacts as well, right? So we have taken the example of Bollywood and the Sushant Singh murder or suicide case, whatever it is, that we have taken an example, and we have shown that we have discussed that how that can produce a negative impact, a kind of a social capital that is happening, that is present between some Bollywood actors, the producers, the directors, and that can have a negative impact on others who are outside that particular system. So similarly, if you look if you compare that with the kind of say what is happening in case of the religious polarization in the country as well, we'll see that some kind of groups are using the social capital in a negative way, right? So when the social capital is being used in a negative way, it is having an extremely negative outcome as well. Since social capital, and it is giving some kind of proof that social capital is a powerful tool to understand the social interaction. So social interaction can have negative impacts as well. Again, so we need to understand in which kind of situation a social capital which generally produce positive outcomes can produce a negative outcome as well. So say the religious groups which can say form say some kind of say or give us some kind of outcome in terms of lower crime, say lower breaches among or trust among people, so that can also produce say a kind of riot or communal violence, all these kind of things. So the question is, under which circumstances are social capital which generally produce a good outcome can produce a bad outcome as well. So the case is, if the government or the ruling agency or the government, the institution mechanism of rule of law, the institutional mechanism of rule of law is not very strong, right? In that kind of a situation, or if it is not impartial, so in that kind of a situation, this social capital, the groups which are forming in the society, they can overpower the other institutional setup, which is like the government or the government's ruling or the rule implementing agencies. They can overpower them and can produce negative outcomes like whatever you are saying. Another example of this kind of negative impact of a good institution, generally that is a good institution but can produce a negative impact, is a strong, very strong trade union. We know that in case of West Bengal in India, we have seen that how the militant trade union activities have lowered or contributed to the decline of industries in West Bengal, right? If generally the trade unions are formed to protect the interest of the employees, that is in some sense good, that the exploitation of the employees can be stopped. But at the same time, if they are very powerful and if they can overpower the government, if they can lobby and influence the government's decision making, so they can overpower and they can curb the government's policies towards them in such a way that will hamper the outcome or the welfare of the entire society, right? Ayan, is it fine? The answer is satisfactory. Ayan, are you there? Ayan? Hello? Can you hear me, Ayan, Tej, Ashok, or Lalit?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Okay, fine. Ayan, is it fine? I think Ayan is not there. Okay. So if there is no more question, is there any more question? Ashok, Tej? Okay. So we are going to meet in the class next time. and I think we are having I think we'll have a very good session, and this course is the course that we prepared, the structure of the economy. It is going to give you much more insight, much more clear idea about the economy, and I think we are really hopeful that the learning outcome of your batch is going to be very high, right? With this positive note, I think thank you for attending this prestige lecture, and I think next time we'll be able to meet in our class, right? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Lalit,
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Lalit, is it? Yeah, we can finish it. Lalit, can we finish it?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you
Thank you.
everyone for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.